My sister slept with my boyfriend, so I thanked her at my wedding. The sound of clinking glasses echoed through the air, a soft background hum to the music as I stood at the head of the room, microphone in hand. The light flickered from the chandelier above, casting shadows that danced on the walls of the venue. My heart thudded in my chest, a mixture of excitement and something else, something darker, something I hadn't quite expected when this day had first arrived. Michael, my husband, stood beside me, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back. His presence, as always, was a source of comfort and peace, a stark contrast to the chaos of the last few years. "Thank you all for being here today," I began, my voice steady, but I could feel a tremor in my fingertips as I held the microphone. "Today is a day of love, of new beginnings, and of looking forward to the future." I glanced around the room at the faces of our friends and family, smiling at me with warmth, most unaware of the storm that raged within me. The wedding had been beautiful. Michael and I had worked so hard to make this day perfect, but it wasn't just the celebration that weighed on me. It was the presence of one person in the room that made the air feel thick. I looked at Clara. She was seated with my parents at the front table, her eyes glancing at me in a way that made my blood boil. It had been 5 years since I last spoke to her. 5 years since I found out the truth. 5 years since she had stolen my life from me. I took a deep breath. "And I'd like to thank my sister Clara for being here today," I said, my voice just a little louder than the soft hum of the room. "For ruining my past relationship, which ultimately allowed me to find my true love in Michael." A silence fell over the room. It wasn't awkward at first, just a quiet moment of shock. But as Clara's face went pale, I knew I had said what needed to be said. My words hung in the air like the tension that had been building for years finally released. I smiled, forcing a calm demeanor. But hey, karma has a funny way of working itself out. Growing up, Clara and I were always close. At least, that's what I thought. We shared everything: secrets, laughs, and even our struggles. Our parents taught us the importance of family, that nothing should ever come before it. That no matter what happened, we had each other. But I was wrong. From an early age, Clara and I had our differences. She was the type of person who thrived on attention, always drawing people to her with her charm. I was quieter, more introspective, but we balanced each other out. At least, that's how I saw it. We fought like any siblings would, but we always had each other's backs in the end. But when I started dating Steven, everything changed. He was perfect in so many ways: tall, handsome, intelligent, and charismatic. To me, he seemed like the complete package. It wasn't long before he became the center of my world. I was so wrapped up in him, I started to ignore all the little things that bothered me, all the small signs that maybe, just maybe, we weren't as compatible as I thought. But I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe that love could conquer everything, even the chaos he brought into my life. I was 26 when I met Steven. I had just moved to a new city and was trying to build a life for myself. He was part of the friend group I had fallen into, a group that always seemed to be at the center of every drama. At first, I found it exhilarating. It was like stepping into a new world of excitement, a world I wasn't sure I was ready for but was drawn to nonetheless. Steven was different from anyone I had ever dated. He was bold, outgoing, and never afraid to speak his mind. He lived for the thrill of confrontation, and I, in my naive optimism, believed I could fix him. I believed that love could calm his fiery temper, that I could be the one to bring him peace. For the first few months, everything was fine. We laughed, we fought, but there was always passion, intensity that kept me coming back. I should have known that things were never truly right between us, but I refused to see it. I ignored the late nights, the missed calls, the excuses. I didn't want to believe that the man I loved was hiding something from me. The truth came crashing down on me one night, completely by accident. I had gone to Steven's apartment to surprise him with dinner, but when I opened the door, I was met with an unexpected sight. He was sitting on the couch, his phone in hand, laughing with someone. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I saw her name on the screen, Lisa, a name I had never heard before. At first, I dismissed it, assuming it was a coworker or a friend. But when I took a closer look at the text message he was reading, I felt my stomach drop. There were words of affection, inside jokes, and the kind of intimacy I thought was reserved for the two of us. I confronted him immediately, and after denying it at first, he finally admitted the truth. He had been cheating on me with Lisa for months. The heartbreak was overwhelming, but his apology, his promises to change, were even harder to resist. Somewhere deep inside, I knew that cheaters didn't change, but I wanted to believe in him. I wanted to believe that this was just a mistake, that we could move past it. So, like a fool, I forgave him. For months after that, everything seemed fine. Stephen did his best to win back my trust, and for a while I allowed myself to believe that we could start over. But deep down, something still felt off. He became distant again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more going on. I started questioning his behavior, becoming paranoid. I tried to push it out of my mind, but I couldn't. One night, when he was in the shower, I did something I had promised myself I would never do. I checked his phone. The messages I found shattered me. Not with Lisa this time, but with Clara. When I saw Clara's name in Stephen's phone, my hands shook uncontrollably. The screen seemed to glow in the dim light, mocking me as I read the exchange between them. The text messages were graphic, intimate, words that no sister should ever share with her sibling's partner. It felt like the world had tilted beneath me, throwing me into an abyss of confusion, betrayal, and heartbreak. I sat frozen on the edge of the couch, the phone still in my hand. My mind raced, trying to process what I was seeing. I couldn't make sense of it. How could this be real? How could Clara, the woman who had been my closest confidant, the person I had shared my life with, betray me in the most intimate way? I heard the shower turn off. My heart pounded as I shoved the phone into my pocket, feeling as though I was suffocating in the silence of the room. In the span of a few seconds, everything in my life had unraveled. The man I had trusted with my heart and my future, the sister I had grown up with, both had torn that trust apart. When Stephen walked into the living room, his hair wet and his expression carefree, I couldn't even look at him. He didn't notice the tension in the room at first, his eyes lighting up as he went to kiss me, oblivious to the storm that had just struck. "Hey babe," he said casually, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Instead, I stood up. My eyes locked on his, and in a voice I barely recognized as my own, I said, "You've been cheating on me, Stephen, with Clara." His face paled as his eyes flickered to mine, then to my clenched fists. The calm facade he had always worn cracked in that instant. What are you talking about?" he stammered, his face a mixture of confusion and panic. I didn't need to say anything more. I pulled the phone out of my pocket and shoved it in his face, showing him the text exchange between him and Clara. His expression shifted from denial to guilt and then to rage. "You don't understand," he started, but I wasn't listening. The words, the lies, everything he had ever said to me no longer mattered. They were empty, hollow. His voice sounded like a distant echo as I walked out the door. I walked for what felt like hours. My mind was a blur, my heart aching with every step. How could this happen? How could the two people I loved most betray me in the worst possible way? My sister had been my closest friend, my confidant, the one person I trusted with my deepest secrets, and now she had taken everything from me. I didn't even know where I was going, only that I needed to get away to think. The world seemed like it was spinning out of control, and all I could do was walk, hoping that the physical motion might somehow quiet the noise in my mind. Eventually, I found myself at the beach, standing on the edge of the water, watching the waves crash against the shore. I had no idea how long I had been there, but the rhythm of the ocean calmed me. I needed to think, to process everything that had happened. And then I thought about Clara. How could she? How could she betray me like that? Our entire lives have been built on a foundation of love and loyalty. I had always defended her, even when others criticized her. I had always been there for her, through thick and thin. And this is how she repaid me. It was in that moment that I realized I couldn't go back. I couldn't fix this. The relationship with Stephen was over, and the relationship with Clara, well, that was something I would have to let go of too. My heart ached at the thought of it, but deep down I knew I deserved more than this. I deserved respect, loyalty, and love, none of which I had received from either of them. The years that followed were a blur of healing, self-reflection, and growth. I moved on from Stephen, and with time, the wounds he had left began to heal. It wasn't easy. There were nights when the memories haunted me, when I wondered if I would ever truly trust anyone again, but I eventually found peace. I took time to focus on myself, on my career, on my passions, on the things that made me feel whole. I surrounded myself with people who valued me, who showed me what real love and friendship looked like. I knew I had to rebuild my life, piece by piece, but the foundation was stronger than ever. And then, I met Michael. Michael was everything I had ever dreamed of in a partner. He was kind, patient, and understanding, everything that Stephen was not. From the moment we met, I knew there was something special between us. He made me laugh, made me feel safe, and most importantly, he showed me what it was like to be truly loved. Our relationship was built on trust, on honesty, and on a foundation of mutual respect. He was everything I needed and more. But even as I moved forward, I couldn't escape the past. Every time I saw Clara's name pop up on my phone, every time I saw my parents trying to act as if nothing had happened, the memories of the betrayal resurfaced. Fast forward to the week of my wedding. Michael and I had spent months planning every detail. The ceremony was to be beautiful, a reflection of the love we had for each other. But even in the excitement, there was still a cloud hanging over me. My parents insisted on inviting Clara. Despite everything that had happened, they wanted to pretend that we were all one happy family again. They begged me to let her come, claiming that family was family and that we should try to reconcile. But I couldn't. I had spent 5 years rebuilding myself, finding peace, and learning to love again. I wasn't going to let her or Stephen back into my life. So when the day finally came and I stood before my friends and family, I couldn't hold back. I raised my glass and looked directly at Clara. I had made my peace with the situation, but I wasn't going to pretend like nothing had happened. And I'd like to thank my sister Clara, I said, my voice ringing out in the silent room, for ruining my past relationship, which ultimately allowed me to find my true love in Michael. Thank you for showing me exactly who I don't want in my life. There was a sharp intake of breath from the guests. Clara's face turned red, her eyes wide in shock. The room was still, the tension palpable, but I didn't regret my words. I had lived through the pain. I had survived, and now I was living my truth. The days after the wedding were a whirlwind. My family was furious with me, especially my parents. They called me, sent messages, and tried to guilt-trip me into making amends with Clara. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the years of silence, the constant pressure to forgive and forget, the unspoken expectation that I should just let it all slide. Clara's husband, Eric, reached out to me a few days later. He had found out the truth about the affair. He had been devastated, blindsided, and was now considering divorce. It felt like karma, a cosmic justice that had finally caught up with her. I didn't feel any sense of satisfaction in that, but a part of me couldn't deny that the universe had a way of balancing things out. I kept my distance from Clara and the rest of my family. I focused on my life with Michael, building our future together. The pain of the past slowly faded, replaced with new memories, new love, and new experiences. The family drama never truly stopped, but I had learned to navigate it. I had learned to stand my ground, to protect my peace, and to move forward, no matter who tried to pull me back. In the end, I knew that the only person I could truly count on was myself. And with Michael by my side, I knew that I was finally, truly home.